thanks guys for just being there for me the whole way through. Thanks so much.
Listening to the last 2 minutes of Tom Aspinall's post-fight press conference at the current moment in time right now.
Enough time for this long game.
We're going to react to the last 2 minutes, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on this entire card. And look at this. A UFC card just ended, and it's literally during daytime.
Definitely.
Thank you. Second question, do you want to step in the cage if you win?
I would love to. That's what I'm trying to do, yeah. I'm definitely trying to do that. Do a little stare down and that and get the fans involved. Probably get booed, but it'll all be good fun.
We are nice people.
So Tom Aspinall was already planning on doing a face-off with John Jones. This is good. This is really good. Just like what Israel Adesanya did with Dricus du Plessis in recent months.
Retired after his fight.
In a recent month, rather.
It's one of them. It's not my goal. Like, I would love it to happen. My goal is heavyweight champion of the world. That's my goal. That's my life goal right now. But John Jones would just be an extra bonus. Like, if I could get that, that would be amazing. But if he retired, I wouldn't be like, oh, John's retired. Oh no, I would be upset, obviously, but it wouldn't bother me. I'll fight the next guy who's got the title, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tom, down here. I know you said that you want to beat Jones, sticking around. Going to MSG in November potentially be a way to do so.
Yeah, if possible, I'd like to fight on the lower down that card. Like, if I could fight on the same card against the winner of Spivak and Gan, I think that would be amazing, because they fight in like 4 weeks' time, which is September, and they got a few months to prepare for November. Like, that's perfect for everybody, I think. So, why not?
Just one from me. I don't.
Hello.
When I spoke to Gan recently, I know his fight with Jones didn't last too long, but he said he felt Jones wasn't fast. I wonder if you could gauge anything from Jones' heavyweight debut.
He felt like he wasn't fast.
Yeah.
Why didn't he defend his takedowns then? No, I thought John Jones was really good. I thought he did exactly what John Jones did. What John Jones does, and he didn't surprise me. I thought he did an amazing performance against him. We're done? Thank you.
All right, guys. So that was literally just Tom Aspinall right now. I was just reacting to the last 2 minutes of his press conference, and a couple of thoughts on the entire event in and of itself. For one, the one thing you have to take into high consideration about this event is that if you think you are the main character of your storyline in whatever it is, the type of fantasy that you cooped up in your head, you got another thing coming. This is one thing that this card can teach you. Why do I say that? Earlier in the night, you had Shauna O'Bannon. I keep calling her Shannon O'Bannon or Shannon Bannon, but really her name is Shauna Bannon, who fights out of SBG Ireland, which means she is a teammate of Conor McGregor, and the coach, she is coached by John Kavanagh, the world-famous John Kavanagh, who was in Conor McGregor's side all throughout the years and even till now. So, throughout the entire week, she became this media darling of a thing to, let's say, somebody like Ariel Helwani, okay? And the way that they brewed this whole thing up was as if, okay, she's going to come in here with a debut, she's going to win, and this and that. And this is the way a lot of the MMA media, if not media people in and of itself, really set everything up in the fight game. They bring these people in, and they give them their interviews, they give them the time in the world, and they give this story in the interview and in the podcast that they do prior to the fight as if they really are going to win the fight, in terms of being what? The main character of the entire story. That's what you thought of Shauna O'Bannon. I was going to call her Shannon again. That's what you thought of Shauna O'Bannon. Bannon tonight. Not O'Bannon, but Bannon in and of itself. Nonetheless, we thought that she was going to come out the victor. And what happened? The exact opposite happened. What about Danny Roberts? Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. We thought that this guy was going to come in here and spoil the party for Parson, this shorter 170 pounder, right? Who is basically 5'7", 5'8", fighting in this weight class against this tall welterweight. Not necessarily tall welterweight, but in the modern sense, an average size welterweight in its modern inception of what a welterweight is today, because you've seen in the past how they can end up around 6'3", 6'4" in that particular weight class. But Danny Roberts got upsetted. And why? Because he hasn't been in the cage since 2019, was off because of the pandemic, so he had all these issues going into the cage, and then here we are. Here we are. Absolutely nothing. He lost. So the storyline was not in the guy's favor by any stretch of anyone's imagination. But for Tom Aspinall, guess what? Everything fell exactly into place like it was the perfect storybook. Because oftentimes, what is it that we really want out of these fighters? We want a storybook. A storybook ending, a storybook happiness in the end of a card, meaning that all the fan favorites are going to win and everybody's going to go home happy. That's not how it was in UK MMA in terms of UFC London tonight. Because there were some guys that won and there were some guys that lost. And that's how it always has been in all of the UFC London or London UK, UFC UK cards. It's never been anything less than that. Because UFC is a highly competitive environment. It is the top notch of MMA in world level and in championship levels all across the world. If you want to be the best, this is where you got to do it. And guess what? The way that they matched everybody up tonight, it was exactly like that. It was exactly to the point of, you know what? We're not going to give anybody any special favors. With the exception of none other than Tom Aspinall. Let's be honest. Did he get a little bit of a giveaway here? I'm going to say yes. Because even though Myson Tybura is in the top 10, I'm going to say that there's a difference between the top 10 and the top 5. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're a hardcore fan, you know exactly what I mean. When I say that there is a competition of a difference between number 5 all the way down to number 10 and even all the way down to number 15. So Andre Fili tonight was in that same similar instance. Let me tell you something about Andre Fili. By the way, we are here in Sacramento, the hometown of Andre Fili. Team Alpha Male guy. The guy is not a championship fighter. He's not even a top 5 fighter. He's not a top 10 fighter in the current moment of time. And he's not a top 15 fighter. However, what he is and what he was and what he always has been was a staple of the 145 division. Meaning that when he fought Yair Rodriguez, it was Yair Rodriguez's passage of time as to say, you know what? I can get past this level. And when Artem Lobov came and got defeated by none other than Andre Fili, guess what? It was Andre Fili's thing to say that, you know what? I belong up here, maybe not in the top 15, maybe not in the top 10, but for sure Artem does not belong in this particular category of under top 15, not even under top 20. That's what Andre Fili proved in that fight, and that's also what he proved when he got defeated by Yair Rodriguez. He is a gatekeeper, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the facts in terms of what is laid out in the world of sporting statistics and rankings and things of this nature that we can measure. Because other than that, the idea of the best fighter in the world is just nothing more than a subjective opinion. of anyone that you feel is credible enough to listen to. So that's the reality of that situation, right? And tonight, unfortunately, he got beat. He got beat tonight. Nathaniel Wood came out there and showed that even with the height discrepancy, even with the fact that Nathaniel Woods was coming up a weight class, coming from a former 135 position, taking on Andre Fili, he showed that skills absolutely pays the bills at any given time of the day, at any time of the week, and at any given instance of anyone's imagination. Skills pays the bills no matter the size, and he proved that. So, in theory, size doesn't matter, or does it? Because now we're going to move into Tom Aspinall. Now, the way that Tom Aspinall has trained for this particular camp, I think was absolute genius. Why is that? Because he said that there is a difference between training a heavyweight fighter and fighters from the lighter weight divisions, and I agree with him. And as somebody that has trained in gyms with Team Alpha Male, I completely understand what he means by that. Because I've seen guys in Team Alpha Male that fought in the heavier weight classes, no names mentioned, guys that have trained there that were a little bit heavier, no one that I have to mention. If you train in Team Alpha Male and you're from the Sacramento area, you know exactly who I'm talking about, or know the instances of how these heavyweights, light heavyweights, and maybe even 185ers just didn't do too good. Because what is it that 185, 170, and 205 have in common with Team Alpha Male? Well, I can tell you in terms of the UFC, absolutely nothing. In terms of current rankings and in terms of current contenderships, yeah, absolutely nothing. Now, you want to go back to the past? Let's say the likes of James Irvin. That right there is something you can look at and say, you know what? Team Alpha Male has had a stake in training guys that big. But one would argue James Irvin was not really the most technical 205er or the most formidable 205er within this generation or even previous. That is because you had a 185er named Anderson Silva, who was a current sitting champion, move up a weight and beat him in a contest that really meant almost absolutely nothing to the trajectory of their career. And a lot of people can say that about a lot of the matches tonight. But nonetheless, back to the picture at hand. Tom Aspinall training with other heavyweights, training with the likes of Phil DeFries, training with the likes of other UK heavyweights that train from across, that fight from across promotions, such as KSW, with Phil DeFries being one of the longest champions in that particular organization, who was also a UFC vet. By the way, fought in the same card as Conor McGregor. Just to name a few of the guys that Tom Aspinall has trained with. It matters. It matters the type of guys that you train with. Now, have I trained with Team Alpha Male's heavyweight guys and taller guys and guys that were 6'7", 200 pounds? Yes. And guess what? In that particular instant, I don't think that it helped me understand fighting guys that were as low as 155, because I could remember in the amateur MMA, that was as far as low as I got, was 155 pounds. And I can tell you that training with those bigger guys didn't help me. But you know what it did help me with? It helped me deal and spar with bigger guys in gyms across wherever I was going to train at. Okay, so it didn't matter if I was going to train at a Muay Thai gym or a boxing gym or other grappling, institutions. The fact of the matter was, now that I got these rounds with these bigger guys, it made me understand how to fight bigger guys. But necessarily, did it help me fight smaller guys? And the answer is no. And that's something a lot of people have to understand. If you've never trained before, you're going to understand the difference. Training with bigger guys means that you're used to dealing with a certain level of impact. And then within that impact that you deal with, you're also going to deal with a certain level of speed that may be slower than, let's say, the smaller guy that you're used to. Now, why is that? Well, because you got to understand one thing. Just because somebody is slower, it doesn't mean that you're going to have a better time anticipating them just because you were used to dealing with the timing and the speed of a smaller guy. It doesn't always work out like that. The reality is that fighting is about rhythm. It's not about a speed contest. It's not about, let's say, a strength contest, because then every power lifter in the world would be delving into this sport. No. The reality of this sport is rhythm. The reality of combat is rhythm. Rhythm and timing. And so the certain type of guys that you train with are going to affect that. They are going to affect how you're going to get used to your combative situation. If your combative situation is with a smaller athlete in a certain level of speed, in a certain level of volume, and maybe not necessarily in a certain level of thump power that you're going to receive from them. Nonetheless, it's different, and it is a different rhythm and a different strategy, and also a different timing that you have to negotiate with. And if you're not understanding that, then you're just not going to understand the science of combat and the strategy of war. And tonight, that's literally what we've seen out of Tom Aspinall. Aside from the fact that we have to get over the fact that some people just live in their own main character syndrome, thinking that they're going to come out on top because they feel that they are the main character or the starring role of their imaginary movie they played in their heads, as they imagine themselves to be James Bond, as they imagine themselves to be the characters of Mission Impossible, as they imagine themselves to be Rambo, Rocky. The reality is, sometimes it can be a starking end of humiliation and constant pain within the end of your life. And that right there is one of the things that keeps me humble in any way that I can be reminded of being humble. Because no matter the victories you have today, tomorrow could absolutely come an impending doom. And I don't want to make that into a negative turn, because you also have to understand, with the story of Tom Aspinall, that guy is on the way up. He is actually the quintessential motivational meme that you can look at and say, look at this. This was me last year. Broken leg, 17 seconds into the fight. Fast forward a year later, headlining UFC London. Knocks out Myson Tybura in less than 2 minutes. And now here I am with a better game plan, a better team of resources, a better group of guys. And in the end, it was a good story. But not everybody has an ending that, that they expect. And that right there is some of the most humbling aspects that you can relate to combat sports in real life.